if you look at what COVID has done for the worldview, is that we now live in a digital ecosystem where now you are now no longer accessing only your local markets, but now you are working in a global economy.
Hi, Tumiso. Welcome to the IT Global Direction. My name is Rorisang, Hlahatsi-Baloyi. I'm so excited to hear what you're going to talk about today. Please introduce yourself to our viewers. Who are you? Where are you in the world? And what's the hot topic for today?
Okay. Hi, Rory. My name is Tumiso Malombo. Where I am in the world, I'm based out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Our hot topic for today is the engaging topic that is digital transformation. How do we look at digital transformation in terms of breaking it down, looking at it, the pillars of digital transformation, and how it creates an experience economy for businesses across the world.
Awesome. What is digital transformation? And what are the pillars that formulate the digital transformation?
Yeah, I think, Rory, the word digital transformation has evolved over the years. It started being driven specifically from a fourth industrial revolution standpoint, where now the marriage between the digital world and the physical world is now being blended, creating a new experience, causing the digital transformation effect, meaning that the marriage of processes with technology while being driven by people. So I think for me, that's how I would define digital transformation. So if you look at the pillars that I'm speaking about, so for me, I would categorize digital transformation into four pillars. The first one is about creating an experience for your customers. The second one could be looking at an inward-facing view in terms of empowering or trying to create a better experience for your employees to be able to deliver better. The third lens I would cast on it is looking at your current estate, which means optimizing your current operations with digital technologies. I think the fourth lens is the one where that's the niche that's creating new markets. This is creating new products and services using digital technologies.
Wow, that's impressive. So you mentioned it's the people aspect, technology aspect, operation aspects, and attracting new markets. And now breaking it down, can you just briefly explain how do you attract new markets using digital technology or digital transformation?
100%. I think for me, attracting new markets, we now live in a digital economy, I call it that. Because if I could give a practical example, if you look at what COVID has done for the worldview, is that we now live in a digital ecosystem where now you are now no longer accessing only your local markets, but now you are working in a global economy. So I think using tools such as digital transformation, I think the earlier phases of digital transformation was just having a simple website to attract people outside of your own region to be able to order in. But I think for me, it's evolved over the years. I think for me, we've started seeing, interaction in terms of creating an experience economy, because people nowadays are no longer, comfortable just looking at a website. They want to have some sort of chat interface so that they can know that there's a person on the other side. They want to get a customer experience in terms of I'm ordering and I can speak to this person, and I've got a support line that I can speak to. So for me, this is how I think digital transformation is bringing forth, a wider market than our normal traditional businesses that would be brick and mortar stores that are currently stationed in a particular geolocation.
Wow. And then from an operation perspective, what are the technologies that organizations could adopt to transform digitally?
100%. I think from a technology, from an operation standpoint, any company that wants to go global, I think for me, the cost of managing on-premises infrastructure is rising by the year. I think for me, right now, we are in the the worlds of hyperscaler cloud providers. I think the cloud technology is one way in which companies can be able to stretch themselves across the entire globe. Where else you have maybe a company that is based out of South Africa, but being able to serve a global market using that infrastructure. So I think for me, cloud computing is one of the technologies that ensures that you can be able to have a wider reach, while still being able to be cost conscious about that, I think. So I would recommend that looking at the digital transformation, looking at the digital experience, cloud computing is one of those technologies that's currently driving this particular trend.
Okay. And how, so you mentioned cost is one of the key things you'd look at for moving from on-premise to the cloud. There's been some concerns as well around moving to the cloud of security, because now when you move your infrastructure from on-premise to the cloud, you're sort of taking that away from your day-to-day control of data warehouses. What's your view there?
No, 100%. I think from a security standpoint, security needs to be top of mind. It does not need to be an afterthought, because when you are moving it into the cloud, yes, you are increasing the attack vector in terms of the surface area. But I think at the same time, you are also, you owe it upon yourself to also put the equal, or if not more amount of security. I think for me, with most, cloud vendors, I think for me, SaaS offerings, there is some sort of native capability, but as a business, you then need to decide how secure do you want to be, right? That means that your estate, then the power to be able to protect your estate is still then upon you. So I think there are cyber technologies that actually help you to be even more safer, specifically even when you're working in the cloud environment. You can look at, protecting your identities. There's multiple measures that you can also put in place, looking at technologies or capabilities like your multi-factor authentication, looking at various layers of encrypting the data at rest, meaning where it is, encrypting the data in transit as it's traversing in between applications, and encrypting the line itself, right? So for me, there's multiple layers that you can go into in terms of trying to ensure that you are secure, because I think when you're on-prem, you only have to worry about people breaking into your data center, for example. So I think when you're in the cloud, then you have to also apply, what they're calling a zero trust principle. Always assume breach, always check your inventory, ensure that you are putting multiple layers in terms of specifically when you've got sensitive data that you are moving into the cloud.
Wow, that's incredible. So, Tumiso, from a technology perspective, as an organization, how do I know that now I am digitally transforming? What are those key technologies that are out there to transform an organization?
I think for me, with digital transformation, there's multiple maturity levels.
Yeah.
I think for me, the first layer, because I think for me, the first one is you've got your infancy from a digital transformation standpoint. Then you've got your intermediate, then you've got your advanced.
Yeah.
I think if you look at your infancy levels of digital transformation, it could be something as simplistic as automating, paper-based processes, putting them in a digital format and consuming it through some digital device, ensuring that where else this piece of paper was maybe only accessible from a person who's only sitting in the office, digitizing that now means that that piece of paper in a digital format is now accessible to multiple people sitting in various locations. So I think for me, in terms of being able to say you are digitally transformed depends on your own processes, because I think different functionality, different industries would have different capabilities and needs. If I could give an example, maybe, I don't know, like a government, in terms of a government saying they are digitally transformed, would be through, citizen services. Me as a citizen being able to consume all of the services that the government can render for me on a digital platform. Being able to interact with my government on in a way that I want to interact with them, whether I want to interact with them via laptop, whether I want to interact with them via a smartphone, or I want to interact with them via some sort of kiosk system. So I think for me, that's how you can really say you have digitally transformed. Once you've transformed your traditional processes and introduced digital technologies to actually create a new experience economy.
Yeah. Is digital transformation new? Because what I'm hearing from you is that digital transformation brings about scale, being able to scale things from being able to access more people than you did before, more markets than you did before, and more customers than you did before. So is digital transformation new? Is it a new concept?
No, I don't think it's a new concept. I think for me, it's only now being, I would call it, taken seriously because of the benefits and the current economic climate that we find ourselves in. I think digital transformation would have started, I think, after the steam economy, right? And then electricity came in. I think for me, once they call it the web 3, right? I
Yeah.
think the digital transformation has been existing. I think for me, it's been existing through a series of micro revolutions, meaning small incremental changes, up until the big bang in terms of from a digital transformation, where now you are dealing with people that are digital natives. For example, if you are in the consumer industry, you are dealing with a digital native. A simple example would have been in the traditional days, someone would actually go into a cab and go to a physical store to look at a device that they may want to purchase. But in today's world, me being a digital native, when I want to buy an Xbox, I want to go online, I want to check the specs, I want to order it, I want people to bring it to my door. So I think for me, that's just the evolution that's happened. I wouldn't say it's necessarily new, but I think for me, what's transformed or changed is the behavior of us as consumers or customers to businesses, but also of businesses want also now realizing that through the adoption of technology, they can have a wider reach with regards to a consumer base.
Yeah, that's true. And Tumiso, this always puzzles me, right? So every time we get these new concepts that are bundled under digital transformation, and I want to get your view and perspective. So there's things like augmented reality, virtual reality, chat GPT, and these new concepts like metaverse, these new concepts that are coming. Would you bundle those under digital transformation?
Yes, I would, because the aim of these technologies is to change the way that we currently do work today, which is the main driving factor, right? It's to create a new experience. If I take augmented reality, for example, I think I'll give it a context of maybe within a school setting, where if maybe children are learning about history, they can put on those augmented reality goggles or glasses, and they start seeing, if they say, for example, they're learning about dinosaurs. Now they can start seeing the dinosaur right in front of them. If you take it in a medical setting where, for precision medicine, where, operating on particular parts can become easier, that means now the margin for errors becomes less now. The exposure and the access to this type of, capability becomes wider. That means that you can now be able to take in more people and give and empower them with the skill. But over and above that, if you are actually from a training and cost perspective, right? If you have to think about it, if you are doing maybe a kidney dissection, obviously there's an element of cost that comes into it, right? But if you look at the digital technology, because this becomes like a virtual assistant, because over and above that, you could also have there's things within the medical field called telemedicine, teleconsultations, where skilled professionals are still able to advise, maybe people that are maybe their juniors within various locations, saving the travel cost that they would have taken 5-hour plane rides to get to a particular point. So I think for me, you start seeing the benefits thereof. If you speak about, things such as your chat GPT is changing the way that we are looking at internet searches, for example. We are used to Google. You go to Google, who is Tumiso Malombo, you get 1,000 pages with 1,000 Tumiso Malombos. But in ChatGPT, if you ask who is this particular person, you get the immediate answer. So you don't have to browse through, you get immediate access to the content that you require. But I think it even has more capability, because for me, it's starting, it's got a flavor of artificial intelligence in it. I think for me, if you are a developer, you'll start seeing the power that the new coding, it's said that the new coding language is going to be English, as opposed to all of these other wonderful languages that we learned in school. So you write whatever you want is in an instruction format in ChatGPT, it starts spewing out the code. Interestingly enough, you tell it to optimize that code, it easily does so. So it's showing you the power of these augmented model data models. But I think for me, it's shaping the way that we are working, right? So now, if you think about it as a developer, instead of being stuck for a week trying to figure out what's wrong with this code, debugging using an AI assistant is becoming much more easier, meaning that the levels of productivity shoot up, right?
There's also some concerns from IT people, IT communities that now that we're moving to be more digital, they may be losing their jobs because now we can optimize code using AI capabilities. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think for me, the main issue is just skills refresh.
Yeah.
I think for me, skills refresh will always be there. I think for me, being in IT long enough to understand that the skills that you knew in 2010 is needs to evolve to the skill that you require in 2050. So I think for me, it's more of a skills refresh. I think we just need to have more of a learn it all mindset, because at the end of the day, these are data models that, yes, they are evolving to do some complex tasks, but in terms of accountability, there still needs to be a human to do accountability. If you've got an AI doctor and something goes wrong, who's accountable? There always needs to be a human element. So I think for me, it's about learning different skills. If, for example, within maybe the same chat GPT example, where it can write code, there still needs to be a developer to ensure that it's stitching the knowledge, or it's stitching the requirement according to the specifications of maybe the client or customer. I think for me, it just enhances the speed at which we are able to work, but forces us to also rethink about, some of how we can add value differently, right? If you think about it, the invention before the invention of the automated elevator, there was a person always sitting there pulling a lever. And then when that process became automated, it meant that person now needed to become like a maintenance engineer, right?
Yeah.
So it means there'll always be a different sub skills that will be required as a result of these new technologies. If you think about, your augmented reality, for me, you must just think about then, okay, that means if now I've got these goggles that are going to do all of these things, I need people that are going to train these data models. I'm going to need people that are going to write software to be able to put into these into these goggles, right? So I think for me, the issue is just more of a skills refresh more than anything. It's an uncomfortable topic, I know, within the IT industry, but I think we just have to have a learn it all mindset when it comes to technology, because it's evolving so fast.
Yeah, it is. It is. Tumiso, thank you so much for joining IT Global Direction. I'll try and sum up everything you said today. I think you said quite a lot of information that we need to consider. So you mentioned that we started off on digital transformation and the building blocks of digital transformation. You mentioned that there are 4 key blocks that we need to consider as we move towards being more digital as organizations. You also indicated that there are quite a few technologies that are being discovered now, but they still fall under digital transformation. Digital transformation has been there for quite some time. It was just defined by the World Economic Forum in 2016. So now we have this concept that we call digital transformation. We also indicated that IT people should not be worried by these transformations. They just need to reinvent themselves and be critical thinkers and see how they can best revamp themselves to be more relevant for the transformation and this new evolution of digital transformation. Tumiso, I hope I covered everything you said. It was loaded, it was a lot, but
No, that's spot on, Rory. That's spot on. That's spot on.
Yeah, thank you so much once again. I hope to see you more on more details on these new technologies. Thank you so much for joining IT Global Direction.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rorisang.
Cheers.